What's up, BookTube? Chelsea's Reads here. After literally being gone for years, I'm going to try BookTube again. Mostly because of this coronavirus and being stuck at home and having nothing really to do for this social distancing. I figured I could reach out to the BookTube community, see what everyone else is reading, and, just share what I've been up to. Obviously, with not being able to go out and do much, I've had a lot of time to read and actually buy quicker than I can read. So I'm going to do a quick little update of a book haul and an update of what I've read this first week. My goal is to try to update this weekly as we're getting through this isolation, social distancing period of the coronavirus. I'm a teacher, so I'm off work right now, and, with nothing to do past the time except for read, that's what I've been doing. And of course, Amazon marketing books as essentials, meaning they will not stop shipping those at this time, is a bonus for readers like us, right? So I'm actually on a different computer this time. Bear with me as I try to figure out how to work this one. If this ends up being a complete failure, I will use a different computer to record next week. So we're going to start with the book haul, what I've bought. The first couple of these I bought actually before we went into social distancing. It was more like at my tax return, but they still happened just before the social distancing, so it works out, and I'm going to count them. The first book I did get was Blood Truth by J.R. Ward. This is the fourth book, I believe, in the Black Dagger Legacy series. It's a spinoff from her main series of the Black Dagger Brotherhood. I bought it in paperback. It came out a while ago, and I actually read it from the library. But this entire series I have in paperback, so I usually don't buy them until they come out in paperback. So I waited almost a year, I think it's been, since this was originally published, to buy it. This one is about a trainee in the program. He's a vampire. His name is Boone. And this one is actually a little bit different than her other ones because it's more of a murder mystery detective kind of story. But Boone was the last trainee of the series to get a book, and I was really glad she did honor him with a book before she decided to end the series. Not much more I can say about this without going into a very lengthy, wordy discussion about the Black Dagger Brotherhood. All you have to know is they're like warrior vampires, and the Legacy series is her spin-off series, so it has the characters from the original. This one focused, I believe, on Butch, was who Boone teams up with. Butch kind of takes him under his wing, kind of a thing. And Boone was very sweet. I really liked this love story. I thought it was cute and simple and a very fitting story for the guy that we've been waiting to hear from for so long. Next, I got Sugar, Plums, and Scandal, which is a collection of short stories and novellas about romance and suspense. The only reason I got this is because of Carolyn Sparks. I loved her Love at Stake series, and I've been planning to reread it soon. And she has a novella, A Very Vampy Christmas, in the back of this. Like, the whole back chunk here, like, is her book. Like, I think it takes up a good chunk of, like, this whole section is just her book. So I'm probably not actually going to read any of these other authors' stories in here. Because I really don't have an interest in them. I literally only got this one because it was a novella that I was missing from the Love at Stake series, and again, for rereading it and me never having read this one before, I thought it would be a perfect time to start it. Carolyn Sparks' Love at Stake series is literally about vampires, stake, S-T-A-K-E, and I believe A Very Vampy Christmas is about the soap opera star. And her books are hilarious and very cute. They're fluffy romances, and when I reread them, this actually comes between books 2 and 3, so I wanted it on hand for when I read that. And going along with the Sugar, Plums, and Scandal, I also got Vampires Gone Wild. Yeah, Vampires Gone Wild, which is also a novella collection. It has 4 different stories in it. Again, I only bought it for Carolyn Sparks' story, and hers actually starts this collection. I believe she's the forerunner of this. And hers is called V is for Vamp Woman. And I think this is about Lady Pamela, who is another vampire from her series. This one comes later in the series, I think after book 10, if I'm not mistaken. But again, it was one that I hadn't read before, and no offense to these other authors, I'm sure they're all wonderful, but I probably won't be reading them because I'm really not big into novellas. I prefer longer books, and it's not really something I want to get into right now. Other authors, or if they're part of a series, because V for Vamp Woman is definitely part of her Love at Stake series. It's just not something I want to commit to right now. So I will only be reading the Carolyn Sparks portion of Vampires Gone Wild, but it was one that I wanted. I ordered both of those off of Amazon just to have my collection complete. From Barnes & Noble now, I got Spiderman Forever Young. I just recently started collecting these Marvel novels. They take different arcs from the comics and they just make them into a novelization form. This one is based on the Stone Tablet saga, and it says it's been adapted and expanded for present day. I like the Marvel movies, so I just started collecting the books. I have, I think, 5 now in this series, and I just pick them up randomly of the ones I know I'm missing or the ones that I haven't seen around. Like, I'm currently looking for the Ant-Man one because I haven't really seen it. It's actually on the back of here. Natural Enemy is the name of the Ant-Man book. But I have Black Panther, I have Civil War, I have an Avengers one. I haven't read any of them yet, but like I said, I like Marvel, and I like the idea of them being in a novel form. I read graphic novels, but I'm not too big of a fan. I prefer prose, so I'm hoping this makes it easier to digest the story and to get through the story. So we'll see. Next up, I bought Five Nights at Freddy's, Fazbear Frights number 2, Fetch. This is also a short story collection. And I know I don't really like short stories, but I do love Five Nights at Freddy's. And Fetch is actually the second collection of short stories. I believe there's 3. Yeah, there's 3 in this one. There was 3 in volume 1. And I haven't read volume 1 yet. But I have the rest of the Five Nights at Freddy's books, so I figured I would continue the collection. At this time, I don't know if he plans on any more, but he did just adapt his first novel, The Silver Eyes. He just adapted that into a graphic novel form. And anybody who's familiar with Five Nights at Freddy's knows that the world's so expansive and he hides so many clues. Scott Cawthorne, I'm sorry, who developed the books. This one has stories by Andrea Wagner and Carly Ann West. Yes, and the artwork, the cover, is from Lady Fizzy, who is, Scott Cawthorne has said is like one of the better fan artists. So here's the cover. It looks like a dog. Five Nights at Freddy's is about animatronics in a fictional pizzeria called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The animatronics are evil and they eat children. And the more you play in the games and the more you read the books, the more of this story you're uncovering, and you're learning all these secrets and all these like little Easter eggs that he's hidden in all his games and stuff, and you don't really get a full picture of the story unless you cover all the media he produces, which is why I bought books 1 and now book 2 of his short stories. I just haven't really felt compelled to read them yet. I haven't really been in the mood for something spooky or something that's going to take that much attention. Maybe during this quarantine, we'll see. Another book that I got recently was Bumblebee at Superhero High by Lisa Yee. This is the last book that has been published so far in the Superhero High series. Other books included Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Batgirl, Katana, and Harley Quinn. I love DC superheroes. I'm not too familiar with Bumblebee, but I do have the rest of the books. They are children's books. They are very simple, not too many words on a page, big text. I thought there was illustrations. I guess I'm wrong. But they're really quick reads. I think they're fun, and they're just easy to kind of pad my Goodreads numbers. And I enjoy them. And I know that's awful saying that, but I do the Goodreads reading challenge, and I think every now and then it's okay to read books that are like this, that are easier to read and they're just fun. I do have a niece now. I mean, she's a baby, but someday when she gets a little bit older, these are the kinds of books I'm hoping to share with her and experience with her. So Bumblebee, like I said, was the last one that was published, and I don't know if Lisa Yeek plans on continuing the series. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything, which is a shame, because especially with the cartoon and stuff, I thought it was doing decent. But as you can see down here, there's like Poison Ivy's down here. I don't actually know her name, but she's been in a couple Suicide Squad animated movies, and I don't remember who she is, but she hasn't gotten a book either, and it would just be cool to see these other interpretations of these famous female characters, because these are from the DC Superhero Girl line, and then it would just be fun. Lastly, what I bought for the last bit from this haul is In the Hall with the Knife, and this is by Diana Peterfront. This is the first book in a Clue series. This was definitely an impulse buy. It's a hardcover. I really don't buy too many hardcovers if I don't have to. I much prefer paperback. But I was walking out of Barnes & Noble. This was right before we had to do self-determination. So it was right before there was any reported cases of coronavirus in our state. So none of the retail workers or the retail places were really in that kind of state of panic yet. This was before they declared the schools being shut down. So it was kind of like safe to wander around places, I guess. Or I felt safer wandering around places. But In the Hall with the Knife is the first book in a Clue series. And I, like, obviously the title made me stop. I saw the bottom says a Clue mystery. And I loved Clue growing up, the movie and the board game. I used to like fan draw pictures of all the characters. So I read the description of this, and it's basically all your characters from Clue at a boarding school, and they're all solving a murder mystery like Clue. So I actually had walked by it. I had put it back on the shelf and walked away. And I was picking up some other books, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go. And then, like, I just could not get it out of my head, and I was like, it's the last one on the shelf. I hadn't heard anything about it, so I grabbed it. So it was definitely an impulse buy, and, you know, normally these are the kind of books I wait for to come out in paperback. I wait till there's a couple more reviews on them to kind of get a feel for is it worth buying, but just something about this really compelled me to pick it up in hardcover, so I did. And that's all I have that I bought so far this week. I have a couple more pre-orders coming in Tuesday. I think they're releasing. So by next week, I'll have a couple more books to unhaul for you. I have a serious problem when you're stuck at home, distancing people, social distancing. And Amazon is just so accessible that I just keep getting more books. No, I seriously am trying to read more, especially ones that I realize have been on my shelf for like 5+ years. And with the libraries being closed down now, I really am making decent progress in books. I have a couple library books that I had before they shut down that I'm still getting through, and those are going to take priority before the ones I own. I don't know why. It's not like they can be late. But we're going to get into the books I've gotten through so far this week. The first book, actually, I finished like the first day we didn't have school. We didn't have school last Friday. And it is How to Love Your Elf by Carolyn Sparks. As I mentioned before, Carolyn Sparks is one of my favorite authors. I've been following her for years. How to Train Your Elf is actually the 4th book in the Embrace series. She went with a new publisher for this one, so this one is published through Kensington. And it's being mismarketed as book 1 because it's through a different publisher. It's actually book 4. So How to Love Your Elf follows Sorcha, and she is a half elf. And she's embraced, and being embraced means in this world that she was born under when the 2 moons embraced, and so that means she has special powers, and in her case she has fire powers. And this one is kind of like a Robin Hood retelling with the woodsman, and he's also embraced, and his thing is he can talk to trees and he can manipulate wood. It's a love story. It's really fluffy. It has dragons, it has magic, it has elves. I really like this series. I'm not gonna lie, this book though wasn't my favorite in the series. I know it took her a really long time to come out with it because she switched publishers, and it didn't feel as exciting as the first 3 books. Like, maybe because it's elves. And like the book before this one had dragons. The book before that had pirates, and the one before that had a beast. So this one wasn't as exciting. I think I gave it 4 stars still because, like, at its heart, it's a Carolyn Sparks book, and that's probably not authentic because I will never give her lower than 4 stars because I love her. So, prejudice aside, this is actually probably a 3-star read. It's fun, it's fluffy, it won't take you long to get through if you do decide to pick it up. I do recommend starting with How to Tame a Beast in 7 Days. That's the first book of this series. And like I said, this one just fell short of expectations, and it was a little bit of a bummer, but it's still Carolyn Sparks. It was still fun. She has a lot of humor and heart in her books, which is always refreshing, especially during these trying times. So if you want something light, I definitely would suggest picking this up. Speaking along those terms, I went a little bit darker too, and I read the last 2 books in the relaunch of Fear Street, which is The Dead Boyfriend and Give Me a Kill. This is a library book, and it's the 2 books put together. So Fear Street was a book series from R.L. Stine, the creator of Goosebumps, from the 80s and 90s, and they were like very short, pulpy fiction for teenagers. So I think this book, the first relaunch started in the 2010s, early 2010s maybe. And these are the last 2 books, and there was 6. So The Dead Boyfriend was about a girl. It was not good. The Dead Boyfriend, I'm pretty sure I gave it 1.5 stars too. But her name was Caitlin, kind of. Like, the twist at the end was that her diary was actually a book she was writing. Spoiler. Sorry. Like, I should have said spoiler earlier. But basically the story is about how she likes this girl, then Dina Fear, because there's a whole mythos about the Fears and Fear Street, if you're not familiar. But Dina Fear's jealous, so Dina apparently casts the spell, and Caitlin kills the boyfriend, but then she keeps seeing the boyfriend stalking her, and it was not good. It was a hot mess of a book. I had no idea what was happening half the time. It wasn't as fun as the original Fear Street books, which was a bummer. Book 2 in the relaunch, which was Don't Stay Up Late, was really good. And it was just classic RL. Even the first book in the relaunch, Party Games, I think I gave 4 stars. But The Dead Boyfriend was terrible. It was by far the worst one. Give Me a Kill was the last book of this 6-book series, and it was also, I think, a 2-star read for me. Again, those familiar with the old Fear Street books knows he had a cheerleader series, and the cheerleader series was about an evil spirit that haunted them. And it was fun and ridiculous, but in a good way. This one didn't even mention the evil spirit. It still takes place in Shadyside. I don't even remember the main girl's name, is how forgettable it is. Oh, Gretchen. I just looked down. Gretchen is new to Shadyside. She wants to be a cheerleader, but so does Devra Dolby. Devra is presumably the daughter of Reva Dolby from the original Fear Street series. But again, other than mentioning her granddaddy owning Dolby department stores, no other connection. It was like, why have these like Easter eggs to your original series if you're not going to call them back at all? Right? But Devra also wants a spot in the cheer squad because she's rich. Of course, she gets it. And all these accidents starts happening. Gretchen blames Devra, but Devra's blaming Gretchen, and nobody mentions the evil spirit that used to plague the cheerleaders, and I don't know why. It was kind of fun if you weren't a big fan of the original Fear Street series, and I think that's part of my problem, is this relaunch series of 6 books was so disappointing because it wasn't like the originals. If I'd never read the originals, I might have enjoyed it more. So I don't know if maybe a teen out there wants to try something a little spooky. They might enjoy it more than I did, but I had expectations like up to here. So speaking of R.L. Stine, I did also finish the first book in the Return to Fear Street series, which is You May Now Kill the Bride. This is another relaunch. So this book series currently only has 3 books in it. So You May Now Kill the Bride is the first book of Return to Fear Street. It has much more of a detailed, old school looking cover. Even the back is like worn. They're marketing towards fans of Stranger Things, and I don't really know why. This one's actually endorsed by Epic Reads, which is interesting. But You May Now Kill the Bride brings back the mythos from the original about the fears and the goods and the curse between them. And it starts out with two sisters in the 1920s. The sister, Ruth Ann, tries to marry a good, and then that's against the curse, so they die. Then it comes back to present day when another fear is trying to get married, and then she goes missing, and the entire book is just her sister trying to figure out what happened. There was no horror. There was no gore. It was just really disappointing. I mean, I didn't understand it. They weren't even in Shadyside for half of the book. So this one wasn't good. I gave it 2 stars. It was very disappointing. Like I said, it's Return to Fear Street and had nothing to do with the original series other than the mythos of the goods and the fears, which had a really good basis, especially when the dad in the 1920s was like, I'm going to get revenge on those goods. And then nothing became of it. I just don't think, because these are much longer like than the original Fear Street books, I don't think R.L. Stine knows how to write a full-length book. Like his little pulpy stuff from the 80s and 90s that were like this big, like 100 pages, 150 pages, almost 200. Like, I think he could handle that. This is almost 300 pages. I'm like, yeah, I don't think he can handle this. It's just too much. He doesn't know how to fill the space. Another book that I read was Cress. It's the 3rd book from the Lunar Chronicles. This book I liked so much better than Scarlet, which is the 2nd book. I'm just now getting into the Lunar Chronicles. I flew through Cinder. It took me a little bit longer than I expected to read Scarlet just because I was really bored with Scarlet. That was just another one where they're on the run, but Cress was so much more interesting. The Lunar Chronicles retells fairy tales. So Cinder, being Cinderella, is a cyborg and an alien. And Cress is Crescent. She's our Rapunzel character. She's actually in a satellite that's circling Earth and the planet Lunar. And that's how she comes into contact with our band of merry miscreants via satellite signal. And she meets Thorn, who's the captain that's traveling with Cinder and Scarlet and Wolf at this point. And their romance I thought was really fun. I really liked watching Cress and him like get to know each other and flirt, and like I totally ship it. I'm totally on board for that. I really liked how Cress moved the story along. The gangs all together. I liked seeing the story progress, and I liked seeing what Kai was doing. I think that's how we are pronouncing his name, Kai. I liked the growth of Cinder in this book. I like seeing how Scarlet and Wolf's relationship developed in this one as well. I thought this one, being as long as it was too, felt decently paced. Like, I didn't feel like it was slow. I didn't feel rushed. I felt like all of the time it took was appropriate for each plot line. And I'm totally looking forward, when the libraries reopen, to finishing the series with Fairest and with Winter. I'm probably not going to read Stars Above because, like I said, I don't like novellas. I'm just not into it. We have one more book for you guys today for this week. I just finished this book yesterday, and it's Entwined with You by Sylvia Day. This is the 3rd book in the Crossfire series. This book was so fucking ridiculous. Guys, it was so bad. Like, this series I had been looking forward to reading for a while, and I read books 1 and 2 last year. I recently moved over the last summer, and half my books are in boxes now, and I'm still getting them out of storage, so I'm missing a big chunk of books right now. But this was one that just recently was unboxed when I got the most recent packages in. And this book is so stupid. Like, this series was recommended because I am one of the few people that actually liked 50 Shades of Grey. I thought it was fun. And they said, no, you like 50 Shades of Grey, you're gonna love this book. And guys, why? Why? This is the love story between Ava and Gideon. And Ava works in advertising in the building that Gideon owns. I don't really know what Gideon does. He owns a lot of stuff and he's rich. But they're like obsessed with each other and apparently in love, and they just have sex all the time. Like, literally all the time. To the point I'm like, oh my god, this girl's insides are gonna fall out. Like, They can't even stand to be in the same room with each other without banging each other. They have a lot of communication issues, and instead of talking, they just have sex. He literally, spoilers, if you don't want this spoiled, please don't watch this, but he literally killed her stepbrother, and she was so moved by it that they had to bang. And then you find out that her stepbrother was going to sell her to the Russian mob for sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and her mother, her like birth mother, the woman who raised her, gave birth to her, bugged her compact mirror and her Rolex watch. So her mom was like tapping her stuff so she could listen in and track her and know where daughter is at all times because her mom cared about her so much. This book is fucking ridiculous. It was so bad. I laughed through it all. There's 2 more books in this series, and I cannot wait to laugh my way through them because they can't, like, what else are they gonna do? Like, they literally get married in this book, but they're like, we're not gonna tell anybody, we're just gonna, like, pretend we're engaged. Like, why not just get engaged? Or, like, actually just get married? Like, what is this book? So it wasn't good, guys. I gave it 2 stars because it was so stupid. And that was it for week 1, guys. That was all I read. Like, as you can see, I bought a lot more than I read. I'm about halfway through a VC Andrews book right now, so I'm figuring I'm probably gonna finish it tonight or early tomorrow. I'm reading the second book of the Return to Fear Street series right now, and that'll probably take me until Sunday to finish that one. And like I said, I got a couple pre-orders coming in next week, and I'm probably gonna hold everything for one of those pre-orders and read that one. It's the next book in the Black Dagger Brotherhood, and that usually takes precedence over everything else. And that one's gigantic, so we'll see how long that one takes me. But the goal right now is to update you guys every week on what I've read, because I have a feeling I'm gonna be reading a lot more. Because I really don't have much to do during my days. So with that said, I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are happy, and I hope you guys are staying healthy as we go forth into this unknown, uncharted territory of the coronavirus. I'm here with book recommendations. I'm here to amuse you if I can. And yeah, let's just survive and get through this together, guys. Thank you.